What did a rust bucket say to a car?
Go on.
I don't know, it wasn't really much of a joke, just...
It's not really very
This
funny,
is the punchline. More Facebook forum slagging off now, you watch. It's Monday, so let us journey through the intro like travellers and see what's on the other side.
And we're on.
We are. So nothing's happened with that. I'm trying to convince someone to sell me their chassis. Is basically the ins and outs of it. But I did get a good slagging off on Facebook last week. I'm damaging the brand apparently.
Oh, Rick.
I know.
Not the brand.
Honestly. Fucking saving it for Christ's sake. Otherwise it'd be in a scrap heap. I'm a Jeremy Clarkson of my day is what I am, mate. What was the Vectra story we were talking about?
That's right, yeah.
When he slagged off Vectras and no one bought them, and they were the second most popular car of the 90s or something when they behind the Ford Focus. Honestly, people need to get their heads out of their ass. So nothing's happened with that. I'm trying to convince someone to sell me their chassis because for the work I've got to do on that, I can probably buy a new one, I would have thought. I don't know, maybe.
Yep.
But the other side of it is it'll save me months. So it does need dipping. There's a couple of repairs that need doing. And I've got a complete front end for it.
But no real progress.
But no progress because until I've convinced him to sell me that chassis, I'm not making any decisions. We have collected loads of stuff to go on it. So the engine's here, the gearbox is here. Because then once I've decided what I'm doing with the chassis, we can start mocking it up because I'm gonna have to cut all the engine mounts out and redo those. So 'tis my plan, my lad. But I reckon if I can get another chassis, it will put me forward like 6 months, realistically.
That'd be good. And at the moment, it's handy storage for R8 trim.
R8 trims. It is a good storage trim holder, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah. We won't hear him.
We won't hear him. No, we won't make that mistake.
Yes.
Shout louder.
I'll have to come very close.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, so that's okay. So Matt's on with a little bit on a Skoda to try and get that back on its wheels and get it finished. Tosh's is done. That's going today. So that's just been for a road test. We fixed it. It's all good. And now
Morning.
Literally.
All good? Just a quick catch up with your emails.
Yeah, last little quality check. Then we give it a wash. Then it's getting picked up later today, so that's fine. Juden's Lotus is here, just because he had to get it off his bit. So.
Yep.
What else? Skoda.
We can't talk too much about the Skoda still, can we?
No, not until I've got it finished. Once I've finished it, we'll do a whole run round on what we've done because ultimately we're doing it for someone and it's their project to reveal, not ours. So yes, it's a Skoda. Yes, it's green. Yes, we're working on it. Their end if a lesson. McLaren, we're waiting on the heads. Not much has moved on from there. Leo knows what's going on, so that's the main thing. But we're just waiting for that to come back, then that can go back together. Suspension's done on this one. We're just doing oil pump seals. So that's fine. Then that can come out and go. But the small in Tosh's is a priority because that's getting picked up.
Yeah.
And then just trying to have a little bit of a sort out. We put the Skyline back on its wheels. Just because we didn't have any bloody ramps. So we've literally just put that back on its wheels. The engine sat over there. I'm waiting on JDM to send up the template for the slave cylinder and the start charge loom. They said they've got one. So once that turns up, that can go back in. But at the minute, the priority was just to get another ramp because that's been sat on a ramp for ages. That had killed a ramp. We were down to one.
Yeah.
And it was just starting to have a massive impact. So we have sorted that. And then my bike is back. So this goes Saturday to Espanyol.
Espanyol!
and it doesn't look, there's a couple of updates I've done on it.
Looks a bit unfinished.
It is very unfinished, very unfinished. Different seat, so the seat sits me down lower. Look at the fit and finish on that, mate. It's like MoTeC.
Nice.
So the seat sits lower. The CRC one uses a big subframe that lifts it up, so it was sort of like up here. So the seat sits lower. This is a 10-carter seat. Then I've got a tank cover on it to try and give me some support. And then we've gone back to, well, they're 10mm offset bars or 15mm offset bars, as opposed to the 30mm offset.
Yep.
So that's okay. And the thumb brake was rubbish, was really, really bad. It was shit. And I think it would be better with a better rear cylinder, a better rear caliper. So I've gone to a finger brake, and I'll wait for myself to hit false neutral and grab the rear brake and spit myself over the front, because a couple of people have done that lately.
Yeah, don't do that.
No. Yeah, so what you try to do there is you try to hold the brake, you try to have the brake lower than where you'd have a clutch. So I try, if I have a finger brake, I run it quite a bit lower so it feels wrong.
Yeah.
Because obviously you stack the clutch, but then it also allows you to bring the clutch lower down as well. So
okay, yeah.
So it'll be all right. We get it finished. Yeah, brake lines are on and done. These are the PCR brake line carriers. So they're really neat. I got a few little bits and pieces to do with the loom. I got to put my lean angle sensor on it and mount that. Yeah, it's not far off, and I can't decide whether to go MoTeC test in black, so everything in just black, because I've got a spare set of fairings I haven't got painted.
Yeah.
So Cal, my eldest, is like, no, you got to go like MoTeC testing. Don't go fully factory painted. Just go all black, just with your number on it.
Stealth.
Yeah. So I don't know whether to do that or not yet.
I think that'll look pretty cool.
I think it looked cool.
Happy days.
Yeah. And other than that, she's pretty much ready to blow.
So you're off to get a bit of sun in Spain.
No, it's not. It's hard work, Dav. It's hard work. Living in a garage for 3 days of hard work. Yeah. Don't, mate. Kate don't need any help. All right?
Oh dear. Oh, I'm digging the hole for you, dude.
Yep. But she is pretty. I love her. And my bike. I said that then and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. She's going to know I was talking about the bike and she's going to kill me. Ha ha.
I could edit that out, don't worry.
No, it's fine. Leave it in.
I will.
Leave it in.
Let's live dangerously.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is about it in here, to be fair. Yeah, not much else going on.
Still no Carl. He's still
gallivanting in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent us some photos the other day.
Cool.
Right, I'll have to send you some on. Yeah, we drop them in.
Drop them in. Has he sent any video yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think he has. We haven't had any, but he doesn't talk to me, so he's probably sent George some. We'll find out. Yeah, I think he was at like Nismo factory the other day and stuff, so
yeah,
that'd be all right. What else? Should we have a wander around outside?
Shall we?
You're all right, cool.
We're outside.
We are outside. What's going on? Right, the S7 is done. So that got driven through a flood and the rack failed. It wasn't a flood, it was like a big puddle. But the racks live right at the bottom and it cooked the rack. So we put a rack on it, software updates, coded it, wheel alignment, straightened some buckle wheels. So yeah, she drives lovely now. The owner's on about maybe making it sound a little bit nicer and giving it a bit more poke. So
yep,
we'll see what he comes back with. But
they're quite tunable, these, aren't they?
Yeah, I like these.
I like these.
RS7, mate. If I was going to have one. Yeah.
Yeah, I had an RS7 for a week once and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I do. They never did them in a 2-door, did they?
No.
Only in 4-door.
Only 4.
So we got finished running the 720 on dyno. We found that it loses power. It like kills the throttle.
Right.
So we're just working through that. We're waiting on the exhaust manifolds to turn up for James's because flexies are blowing. It failed the MOT. So we've ordered some new exhaust manifolds. This is Chris's. He came down with his grandson on Saturday and it's on BC coilovers and it's slammed. It's way too low. So he wants to raise it back up. And then while he was down, he was like, well, let's just get it serviced. So we can go through that this week.
So is that something you say with these? Don't go too low.
Don't go too low.
That does look really low.
So it's got Gen 2 wheels on as well. So it's got 35 section rear tyres on instead of 30s on the rears. So 19s, but the rear tyres are too big basically. So which is why it looks like it's sat up in the arch, but the front is way too low. You just ground out on everything.
Yeah. I've made that mistake with cars of mine before.
Yeah,
too low and
you go, oh yeah, lower it.
It looks great, but it's horrible to drive.
Jason's is Syvecs MoTeC. That's really clean when this is lovely. Devon's is a list, so we're just waiting for bits and pieces to turn up. We had it in for a check over and exhaust. Needed some bits and pieces and he wants to go ahead, so that's fine. Gerhard's is waiting on a battery and then a service and MOT, so that's fine. Oliver's is done. He's going to come and get it this week. Matty's, we started wiring in the Lambda controller on Saturday, so we just need to do a few bits and pieces to finish it off now. So the Lambda heater you've got to run on a relay off the battery because it demands so much power. So you need an ignition light for one side of the relay, you need battery power for the other side of the relay that goes to the Lambda controller, and then the CAN bus wires off the ECU. So I've done all the stuff, because it's a plug and play board, I've done all the stuff on ECU, run it up. So we just need to connect it all up. Then it can go on the dyno. I can dial in a Lambda controller and a control PID and stuff, and then we can just finish tuning it. Because I think how it was tuned before was they put their own Lambda probe in the exhaust, tuned it, so it's not on closed loop.
Right.
But he said he's had problems with it smoking bits and pieces, so just put it on closed loop. Just let the ECU deal with it then. You get your base table really close and you just let the ECU deal with the rest then. So that's all good.
He's going to be happy to get that back on the road, isn't he?
Yeah. And then I think he wants to sell it, so yeah, it's a pretty little thing. Sam's just been in doing some dents. He's on my Golf at the minute doing some dents.
There it is.
So waiting on shock absorber for Richard still. Waiting on a warranty company to authorise a load of work for Nick's. We're waiting on parts to turn up for Phil's. We've got a list of bits and pieces we've got to let the owner know about this one. It's running rough and it smokes and a few bits. We've got to go through that.
Another one.
That one is, I've got a report back to the owner today. That's Matt's. So we've done a check over and he's asked us to look into a few bits, so I've got a report back to him. Rob's behind you. I've given him a list and we're waiting back on that.
Yep.
And then we've started stripping down the silver one, and then that can come back in then and we can lift the engine out finally. Because I need to commit a ramp to that one. When that goes on, that's dead. So yeah, we get that one finished off. That question time.
Should we have a look?
Okay, let's find somewhere to do it.
It's not me.
Question time. Realistic corner, should we call it that?
Realistic corner in the bay.
In Jordan's Bay, yeah. What has he got written down? Nothing really. Just a login code for something.
We won't show that.
Nope. Right, William Holmes. As another discussion, whilst not condoning gambling, thoughts about the abundance of raffle cars about for 99p a ticket. Would you take the car, for example, a Ferrari 458 and 5 grand, or the 100 grand cash alternative? The only time I've ever entered them is for the product. So I think a little while back there was an M1000 RR up, which is a BMW race bike. That was up for like 99p. So I would never enter it for the cash. I'd always enter it for the car that I was going to win. So there is a lot around and they can get dangerous, but then I probably know more people that have won cars than have won the lottery.
Yeah.
Even well, don't even know anyone that's won a tenner on a lottery lately, but I can name 3 people now. One won an RS6, one won a bike, and Trinder won a bloody Lancer Integrale. So I know people who won stuff. So I would take the car myself. I wouldn't take the cash. And at the end of the day, it's 99p for a Ferrari or 15 quid for it, or whatever you paid. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you always see people sort of go about, say, some of these YouTube car builders that end up raffling the cars off at the end. And they're like, oh yeah, but it's not this, it's not immaculate, it's not that. It's like, no mate, it's £15 for a car.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you don't like it, I'll just keep the car and I'll give you 15 quid back. You've lost nothing. So yeah, I would take the car. J12K, I missed a few updates. Where's the, it says, where's the rust, ... I mean Noble. You're going to upset some people, mate.
Can of worms, dude.
It's over there. We've been through it. There is more to come, but at the minute, I just need to get my ass in gear. So, Andrew Green, out of your field, I know, but would a linked dyno have found a VAG emissions fiddle? As I understand it, the emissions map was enabled when the front and rear wheel speed was different. Never realised this was how they work. Some good info. Yeah, basically, that was how they did it. Was when the front and rear wheel speeds matched, it had a different. It referenced a different map inside the ECU. So then when it was on a dyno and it was just driving front wheels, then it was a different map. So that's how they got rumbled, essentially.
I think it's worth adding there that it's not just Volkswagen.
It's not just Volkswagen, it's because it's everybody now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every single body's Facebook page is, oh yeah. Do claim for BMW, claim for Mercedes, claim for Volvo. So in all honesty, it's a load of old swizz. If you're the person that has fucking claimed on it, then you need to sort your life out. Because it cost you nothing. It did nothing. It hasn't impacted you zero. And now because someone thinks they can get some cash out of it, they're all offended by it. So I think it's a load of old bollocks, if you ask me. Yes, I do think the manufacturers should be held to account for it.
Yeah. But
as a consumer, you lost zero. Who buys a car based on its emissions output? No one. I buy it because it's fast and looks fit.
it's become the new PPI, mate. Let's be honest.
It has, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's everybody's jumping on it now.
Yeah.
So it actually annoys the living piss out of me because yes, there is some implications for the manufacturer, but it's billions. Like, that's what they're talking about now. It's billions. It's company changing. People have lost their jobs over it.
Yeah.
Not as in the people responsible. Redundancies have lost their job over it. Because Fred and Margaret, who didn't give a toss when they took it on lease, are now claiming for the £10,000 worth of damage it's done to. It's just a joke.
It's also got a knock-on effect with the performance models, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Because they haven't got the investment for these kind of niche models.
No.
Which is bad for all of us.
Yeah. So literally manufacturers have had to tighten their belts.
Yeah.
The Volkswagen Group have not had a Christmas party since it broke. Not because of the financial implications, but because they couldn't seem to be celebrating what was going on. So I've had friends there who have been made redundant. I've had friends there who have been reassigned from projects. I've had friends there who haven't had Christmas parties or bonuses or wage increases.
Yeah.
Not because some Bosch engineers and some managers in Germany did a little swizz. And we're just talking Volkswagen here because obviously I have friends in group, but because Fred and Margaret have decided they're going to jump on a no-win, no-fee claim. Yep. And that's where the cost has come from, not from fixing it, not from the rollout fix. It's a software update, and on some of them it was an air mass tube. It's nothing. The coil pack thing back on a 1.8, so there was a recall on coil packs. That was way bigger cost. I remember being at SEAT back in the day when we had 1.8Ts lined up outside because we couldn't get coil packs, and every single person was in a hire car. Wow. So, yeah. Wow, didn't think that would take a turn.
Hey, the soapbox.
Mate.
Back out.
I know. F35500. Fascinating video, Rick. One question, if you say we're going for a stage 1 tune, is that something you would really need to dyno to make a map work? Yes, you should always. I would always say, if it's a choice between going to a tuner with a dyno and a tuner without a dyno, even if you were using, say, a product that is built and you haven't got to do anything with it, so say an APR, a Revo, an EcoTune, something like that, I would still say yes, choose a tuner with a dyno, because not only can they show you delta gains, but also then they can check the safety before they start. They can check the safety afterwards. Are you in knock? Is your boost doing right? because you walk in somewhere and some tunes are a lot of money, you spend a lot of money getting it tuned, you don't know whether the car's healthy to start with. So there's got to be some due diligence, and the dyno helps you not only replicate real world sort of use without the risk, but also gives me a controlled environment that I can test your car. So if it's a choice between the two, I would always say choose a well-renowned tuner who has a dyno. Who are good for Porsches? I mean, we do Porsches. Mitch is ex-Porsche. Other guys that are good, you'd say a friend of mine does a lot. JCR does a lot with our RPM Technic.
Yep.
There's JZM. There's another place as well, Resto 99 or something like that. Up near Bicester, they do a lot of old classic stuff. So there's a lot of good places around. It's the same as anything really. You know, you've just got to do your research. Andy Begbie, how do Ricky? I've asked before, but what's the difference between 2 dyno rollers and a single roller like yours? That is a good one actually. Right. So when they say 2 rollers, what they mean is 2 rollers side by side and a wheel sits in between them. And they measure. To be honest, I've never really had much to do with dual rollers. All I know is there's a little trick with dual rollers, whereas if you let the car climb out of the dyno and up onto the one roller, because they both measure, they both have something to do with it, you can get more power, basically. It reads different. Single rollers, everything's single roller now. Dynojet is, MAHA is, so I would probably say it's a lot more repeatable, because you haven't got to constantly think about losing contact with the back roller on either axle. So a single roller, you sit up. I sit up at 1 o'clock. So if you look at the car from the side, I don't sit at 12, I sit at 1. So essentially, as I start driving down the front of the roller rather than up onto top of it. But horses for courses. Just nowadays, the more accurate dynos are probably single rollers. The more accurate dynos again are hub dynos. The more accurate dynos again are engine dynos. It's just, you know, it was called the LPS for MAHA, and mine's called an MSR. So big power stuff is normally single roller. So yeah, stick with that. Patamand 3593 2013 TTRS CPB. Remove the intake flaps that are controlled by the vacuum. Put them back in or not. If you haven't modified the head to take the flaps out, as in the guides out, leave them in. And then if you do take them out, you have to obviously fill the gaps in head, because it'll upset the airflow into the cylinder head, and you've also then got to tune it out. So just be careful with what you're doing there, but there's no harm in leaving them in. It was designed to be left in. We would only take them out when we're chasing power and I'm doing head work, and I can modify the head to get rid of the slots basically. Tony King, can you correct me if I'm wrong? If you take the car up to, let's say, 150 mile per hour on a dyno, surely your airflow going in at the front should be the same speed. No, mate, because at 150 mile an hour on a dyno, it's not that. It's 9,000 RPM. So I need to be able to supply enough air to the car for 9,000 RPM. So on a dyno, it doesn't matter whether I'm doing 10 mile an hour or 100 mile an hour, it's my engine speed I've got to supply the airflow for. The water flowing through the radiator is traveling the same speed at 10 mile an hour as it is at 90 mile an hour if the engine RPM is the same. So you're controlling airflow for how much air the engine is using. So you can do 150 mile an hour on a dyno at 2,000 RPM. So it's not wind speed, it's not road speed related airflow, it's engine speed related airflow. That's what you're after on a chassis dyno. Yeah, and that's it. The reason we use a high gear is ultimately I want 1-to-1 ratio in a gearbox, because first gear is normally about 3-to-1. So if you're making 600 Newton meters of torque, the gearbox is multiplying the torque 3-to-1. Whereas in fifth gear, it's normally 1-to-1. So that's why we use a high gear. Dylan GSXR, please tell me how they make the green HRC brake hose work on front master cylinder. I don't know what you mean by that, mate. But HRC brake hose that goes from a reservoir to master cylinder is green. You can get clear stuff, and then you just use normal black spring clips to hold it on. But yeah, you can buy the HRCs do sell it in just lengths, or if you can find the right place, you can buy it in bloody meter reels, which is what we buy it in. So, Stephen McNaught. I've owned a 2009 R8 V8 since 2012. It's done just under 75,000 kilometers. It's serviced every 2 years. It had walnut blast and some stone chips removed, so it's in good order. The only repair it's ever needed was a gearbox sensor. My question is, what preventive maintenance would you suggest, given it is now 15 years old? Preventive maintenance is a difficult one for the sake of preventative maintenance. So if you've never done transmission oil, do transmission oil. If you've never done diff oil, do diff oil. Auxiliary belts, do that. For us, preventative maintenance is normally, I would say we would do that when we do a bigger job. So for example, if we pull an engine out, like James is, we're taking the engine out to do his manifolds, me and him have had the conversation about doing a clutch and doing the aircon compressor, because while it's out, it's free labor. Preventative maintenance on a car where you can't find anything wrong, I suppose it depends your logistics and how flush you feel. You know, there's always something to be done, I suppose you could say, but where does it stop? You know, you don't change your brakes half worn because preventative maintenance, you wait until they're worn. So for me, it would always be after an inspection of the car, what's wrong, what we think, how long it's going to last. If you live down the road and it's going to last 4 months, then it's not a problem. If you live in Jersey and it's going to last 4 months, and you've got to get a boat back here and it's a big ball ache, you might go, oh, Rick, let's just do it now. So there's a lot more to that than just spending money for money's sake to do preventative maintenance, because depending on how much of a worrywart you are, preventative maintenance is sell a car and buy a brand new one. And it just depends how it fits. So, yeah. Well, I got my soapbox out earlier, so I'll get it back out.
Soapbox part 2.
Car auction sites.
Go on.
Are pissing me off. And more so the people thinking what they sell for on car auction sites is the market value. So recently we had a Gen 1 facelift. It wasn't a plus. What was it, 37,000 miles? 27,000 miles. Now I would put that car, if you come to me and said, Rick, I think I'm selling this car. It's not a plus. It was a DCT. At the minute, I would probably put it low 50s. We had 2010, 2011 V10s selling for the end of last year, manuals for mid 50s to high 50s. This wasn't a plus. It was a 2014. You've got to be in the 50s. And this sold on a car auction site for 43 plus fees. Now, what people miss is they miss the fees. So they go, oh, it sold for 43 grand. Well, for starters, it didn't. What the person paid for it isn't that. That's just what you're seeing. Was it 5% and VAT and all sorts of crap? So there's a good couple of grand on top of that anyway in fees. But also, you're basing your market value on a website no one goes to. Like some of these cars that are being sold, it's not AutoTrader. If you go and look up a 2014 27,000 mile car on AutoTrader, that's a better reflection of market value. And we had the same when COVID was in. I said before, I nearly bought a 600 LT during COVID. It was 108 grand plus VAT.
Yep.
That wasn't market value. That was someone desperate to get out of it. So you can't take everything from market value. So I haven't got a problem with auction sites. I've got a problem with people thinking what they sell for on auction sites is the market value, because that isn't. Because if that was market value, why have I got clients buying cars for mid 50s? It was a bargain is what it was.
Yeah.
You had to be in the right place at the right time. And we've all had them. We've all been on that famous auction site and bought fucking shit. and we had a bargain because you were the only person looking for it.
Yeah.
And it's the same. There was one on at the weekend that I was watching, and it was a Pulsar, and that went for 15 grand plus fees. And I can't quite figure out whether that's a deal or whether that's actually expensive.
They're rare now. Those
They
DJIs,
are rare. And it looked clean. It did look clean. So I think there's certain stuff on there. I think the one this car was on is more renowned for selling specialist stuff.
Yeah.
Run-of-the-mill stuff gets lost. And I've had clients sell stuff on there and kind of come away and gone, didn't go for what I thought it would. What it does give you is it just gives you a definite sale. It's gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get paid your money, that's it, it's sorted. Yeah, so I don't think it's market value. I think people do get hung up on market value. At the end of the day, it's worth what someone will pay for it.
Yeah.
If no one's willing to buy it, I've advertised a Huracan exhaust, a Performante exhaust twice. And I've had offers of 750 quid on a 5 grand exhaust. But it's worth way more than that. But if I've got 3 people who all want it, the value's different. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
When nobody wants it, it's worthless. When one person wants it, it's what they're willing to pay. And when 2 people want it, it's what who wants it most. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you start looking at these auction sites and cars are going under value, especially on this one particular site where it's not a popular site. It's not where you would go to buy a car. What do you do if you're looking for a car? What's the first website you go to?
Yeah.
AT, right?
It was always that.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot more out there now.
There are, but even then, you still kind of go. It's like if you were looking for a house. It's one website, right? RM. You don't really. It might pop up in other places.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? It's the same kind of. If it's on AT, it's normally everywhere, isn't it? It's normally on the big market-leading auction site and stuff like that. So yeah, and I've said it a couple of times to people. There was a McLaren 570. Was it 570S went recently at auction, didn't it? Was it 42 grand?
It was 40s, definitely, yeah.
And I'm like, right, it's a stolen recovered car on like bloody Jim Morris's auctions in, Bedleypool at 7 o'clock on a wet Monday. And it had been rolled in after the sheep had gone through. Do you know what I mean? It's like everyone's looking, going, what, how is that? That's not the value of the car, is it? That's not the value of the car as a stolen recovered car anyway. But in an auction no one's heard of, because I remember it doing all the rounds afterwards. It was all on bloody Facebook reels, wasn't it?
It was everywhere,
or Instagram reels, going, it's ended on 46 grand. Yeah, it was like 8 guys there, all in sheep coats, with their sheepdogs drinking stout. Like, they've never seen a McLaren. They've seen it more UFOs than they've seen McLarens. So it's where it sells. It's where it sells, and it's look at F40s. I remember when F40s broke £1 million, and that all came down to an F40 in America because I was chatting with a journalist who wrote a story on this. We went to America together. And he was like, that all started because 2 guys in America were pissed up at an auction and overbid to prove to each other they were wrong. So that car went for over $1 million. And at the time, they were going for like 400 grand.
Yeah.
And then one car went for over $1 million, and that's the benchmark now. They were all that overnight. And that's the same. It's not market value. And I would probably say crap cars are always worth less. Well, I wouldn't say that. That is the truth. Crap cars are always... But again, I can find you R8s that are priced between 25 to 30 grand. And it's not an R8 you want to buy. And I'll tell you that now. You'll turn up here, or you'll go to another independent, and it'll want brakes, it'll want suspension, it'll want a clutch, it'll want a load of it'll just want a load of maintenance. And all of a sudden, it's a 42, a 43, a 44 grand car. Whereas you should have just gone, I'll buy a 44 grand car. And it's younger, newer, and in better shape. So I think sometimes the desperation to get in the product means people will go out and buy bargain basement. And these auction sites, I don't think they're damaging market value too much, but people do get hung up on it when it's not market value. Do you know what I mean? It's like People go, oh, check We Buy Any car. What? So you think that's the market value of a car because some 18-year-old kid has added up some key market sectors and gone, oh yeah, it's probably worth about that, isn't it really? And they haven't got a clue what they're buying. Do you know what I mean? So that is my rant.
There we go.
Good cars are still worth money.
Yeah.
Good cars are always worth money. I'm not saying they're an investment and you're going to go up in value, but 43 bags for that was a bargain. That wasn't market value. Someone had a fucking steal. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wasn't there a Lotus Exige that got sold for like 9 grand or something, or 10 grand, because the wife advertised it to get back at the husband. They were getting divorced. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And she put it up, and she's like, first one here to turn up with 10 grand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tear her arm off. It's not market value. It's just what, you know. So auction sites, mate, they suck. And don't forget the fees. It wasn't 43 grand. It's like 48. You know what I mean? What's the fees? 5% plus buyer's tax plus VAT and all this bollocks.
Yeah.
So, but someone had a bargain. Right, is that tea time?
I think it
Can I
is.
put my soapbox away?
Let's do it.
Let us know what I did wrong. Let us know if I am wrong. That's what I think. It's not what everyone else thinks necessarily, but the corner of truth. Smash buttons. And we'll see you on the next one.
Let's do it.
Laters.